Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Generation. Today we are going to meet up with the well-educated active young man Baljinnyam Tovuudorj. Baljinnyam is a program coordinator at the Zorig Foundation non-governmental organization as well as a mentor at Tomyo Ed Tech. He is also the founder of the Mongolian NGO, which operates to implement environment protection projects. Apart from work, he is worried about environmental issues and he is funding many kinds of projects in this sector. Stay with us to learn about this young man enjoying life to the full.
Hello guys, my name is Baljinnyam. I'm a project coordinator at the Zorig Foundation and I'm also a founder of the Baljinnyam NGO. Let's spend the day with me as I share my insights on gaining a scholarship to top global universities and starting the NGO.
This morning, as usual, we can find him at hobby school where he has graduated from. Let's relive some of his student memories.
So when I think back of when I was a student, I think I was the type that was always kind of looking for any type of opportunities and things that could just elevate me to the next level in terms of education. So during high school, middle school, and elementary school, I transferred schools about 8 times because my family was always, kind of moving around here and there. And specifically in 8th grade, I was at school 84, and our class was just, full of so many kids, like 45. We would be crowded in like one table with the 3 of us, and it was just kind of chaotic. And I remember like thinking to myself, there has to be a bigger opportunity for me to kind of get something better out of my education instead of just like kind of learning all day, being in like a crowded room. So there's 2 distinct moments and opportunities that I recall that really enabled me to kind of gain higher education at a top level college. So the first one was the laboratory schools opened up. So New Beginning, Mongol Aspiration, and New Era. These schools had just opened up back when I was in 8th grade. And for me, that was like kind of my big opportunity to like advance and, strive to gain like a better and more well-rounded type of education.
Baljinnyam was a very active student. He entered the Hobby School Olympiad and was awarded a full scholarship to attend the rest of his high school years at Hobby School, where he participated in international Olympiads, debate competitions, and around 4 different student clubs. Can you introduce your family? What kind of child were you?
I live in a family of 5. I have an older sister. She's currently in London, in the UK, doing her master's with the Achieving Scholarship. And I have a younger brother who's in 12th grade at the moment. And my mom and dad, they're very like distinct and different types of people. So my mom's a poet, and then my dad is like an engineer. And so my dad works at the Ministry of Energy, and then my mom works for Mongolia's National Library.
Hobby School is an environment where the main priority for most students was to gain admission into top universities. At that time, he was a product of his environment. He learned a lot from his peers and enrolled in debate clubs, as well as participated in international competitions. It took him from being a good student into a promising college applicant. Do you have a role model?
I think who I thought was really cool and who I wanted to be like was Barack Obama, because I just remember like looking at his speeches, especially the Democratic National Convention speech that he gave during his election run. I think it was so powerful, and that was like kind of the reason why the US or America really like appealed to me, because he talked about like unity, he talked about community, he talked about the power of like individuals and communities and what that can achieve, and I really loved that message. So for me, I kind of like always looked up to Barack Obama as a person, but then when I actually eventually got to go to the US in 2016, then Donald Trump was elected, so that was kind of like a weird transition at the time. Yeah, but I always thought Barack Obama, like, that's a really cool person. That's who I kind of want to be like.
What is your goal for the next 3 years?
So in terms of my goal for my career and then in my personal life, I'd like to separate my different goals. So in terms of my career, I want to be able to grow my own NGO, and already in our first year, we've made big strides, but in the next 3 years, I want to be able to build a solid foundation and have a sustainable and working NGO that operates, full-time yearly. In terms of my personal goals, I'm really looking forward to just learning. I want to learn more about different industries. I want to learn more about different communities in Ulaanbaatar as well as Mongolia. And I think right now is the perfect time for me to just learn about everything that I can get my hands on. So yeah, those are, I would say, my primary goals.
He graduated in environmental studies from the University of Washington in 2020. He has working experience as a researcher at the Washington Department of Natural Resources and a project consultant at the Asia Development Bank. Currently, he is working as a program coordinator at the Zorig Foundation NGO. How do you manage your daily schedule?
I would say that I use mainly applications and productivity applications to kind of manage my daily schedule, because I think it does all the hard work for me. I just look at my, for example, Google Calendar and see what's in store for the next 2 or 3 hours. So I don't have to think about the whole day ahead. I can just focus on the next 3 hours. I like to keep it pretty dynamic. I like to keep it flexible and open.
We spent some time reliving his childhood and student memories. Now his next destination is the Zorig Foundation NGO, which is located in the center of the city. The Zorig Foundation NGO attracted him because it has become a hub for innovation, action and change at community level. That's his favorite aspect. Since 2001, the Zorig Foundation has over 5,000 alumni who have implemented about 300 community projects that address a wide array of issues. The Zorig Foundation is also the nation's biggest scholarship provider with over 2,008 awarded. So because he considered himself a value-driven individual, his values and the foundation's primary mission aligned perfectly. What responsibilities do you have as a program coordinator at the Zorig Foundation NGO?
Firstly, my primary responsibility is, of course, program implementation. But to get to that stage, first the program coordinators have to secure funding. So in a given year, the Zorig Foundation runs 20 to 23 annual programs that are aimed towards youth empowerment and education, sustainability and climate change. But in order to implement those programs, we have to secure really different sorts of funding and pitch to different partner organizations, donors. And my primary role is managing the Young Leadership Program, the Environmental Fellowship Program, and the Young Environmental Leadership Program at the Zorig Foundation. And these programs range from 1-month-long intensive programs to over kind of 8-month-long kind of academic year types of programs. So yeah, I'm primarily responsible for the implementation of it and also for the selection of the participants to our programs. The Zorig Foundation's programs have become very competitive over the years. We receive, just for example, in the Young Leadership Program, we receive around 370 applications per year, but we only take in around 23 to 20 students. So, to participants, I mean. So it's around 6 or 7% acceptance rate. So we have to really sift through these applicants, interview them, and get the best fit for the programs as well.
The Zorig Foundation is a Mongolian non-profit, non-governmental organization established in October 1998 after the assassination of Mongolian pro-democracy politician Zorig. It seeks to spread democratic values in Mongolian society, strengthen human rights and social justice, as well as improve the system of transparency and accountability of the government to the public. In order to meet those objectives, Zorig Foundation concentrates its programs on three areas: youth education, good governance, and community building. Baljinnyam, what is currently your main focus?
People ask me why the Zorig Foundation and what's really kind of special about it. And when I think when you graduate from top global universities, people tend to want to work for big international organizations. I was certainly kind of attracted to that. So when I graduated, I worked at the ADB for a year. But what's really kind of special and unique and really important about the Zorig Foundation, it's at the base community level. So everything we do, it's for the empowerment of youth, and we really work one-on-one with students, with young professionals, with industry leaders on how we can bring about positive change. So at the Zorig Foundation, we've implemented 300 small to mid-level, community-level projects that are more grassroots, that address a wide array of social issues. And that was what's really cool to me, is working with people my own age and then implementing and bringing about positive change from small community and then making it even bigger. Whereas, my work with the ADB, it was very important as well, but it was more of a policy level, more of a regulations type of work. Whereas at the Zorig Foundation, it's more dynamic, it's very flexible, it's very fast-paced, it's very community-oriented, and it's very we focus on the people, we focus on our participants, and so that's my focus as well.
How do you spend your working days?
Most of our programs start at 6:30, so the Young Leadership Program starts after people have kind of finished their full day of work, and then they come to the foundation to do workshops, learn about new topics, lectures, and we bring in leaders from different aspects of society to give these lectures. But before then, I'm usually mainly focused on planning and working with the staff to kind of secure funding. So right now it's November, so September to November is a very busy time for us because we're putting out our programs, we're announcing them, we're designing the program, and we're planning ahead on who we're going to invite. And so that's what we do from in the morning, and then in the evenings we have our hands full with the participants, and that's where it's kind of really fun, people coming in, and yeah, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. that's where kind of the main work starts.
His goal for the next few years is to empower the next generation, the young voices of Mongolians, to be the main stakeholder when it comes to sustainability and climate action. What is the most challenging thing you have experienced working at the Zorig Foundation?
So it was very different. Before then, I had worked at an ADB project where my roles and my duties were very specifically defined, and I could just kind of work according to the book plan, and there was a lot of regulations and a lot of kind of contractual policies that I had to follow. Whereas at the Zorig Foundation, when you're the project coordinator, you have to kind of you're your own boss basically. It's very free. It's a very there's no one really telling you what to do. So you have to come up with the project design. Of course, there's going to be people helping you out, and you have to kind of secure the funding for the project. You have to decide, what are the courses going to be like, what are the workshops going to be like, and then you most of all have to interact with your participants and really kind of invest into their kind of well-being and growth as well. So it's very different. That was very challenging for me, is having very specific set of TOR and roles to now it's more of a free flowing, but I kind of decide how the program goes. So that was a very challenging aspect.
Now his mentorship time has started. Recognizing the inherent gap in the education sector in Mongolia and his own privileges, he tries his best to share his insights specifically to public school kids.
So I think in my experience, applying from Mongolia to kind of global universities, you have to be really well informed about how the college application process goes. And what's unfortunate in Mongolia is, kids from public schools and many private schools don't really get a chance to learn about the application process and just to realize that they can actually do it and get into these schools. So what I'd like to do is, I know that I've been very privileged and I've been very lucky to have been afforded the chance to go to not just New Beginning, but also get a scholarship to Hobby. I feel in many ways that I'm very privileged in that aspect. So right now, I tried my best to involve some sort of mentorship component into my weekly routine. And so how I do that is basically digitally through the Tomyo app. I was very active during the quarantine, but still is. I'm a qualified mentor in the Tomyo app, so I put in my time slots and people can sign up for a very, small amount of price. But also, I keep some of my connections from previous programs, such as the Mongolian Young Scholars Program, where I was a teaching fellow. And some of my students, they still come up to me and they're going through the application process. And I try to prioritize students from public schools, students that may not have gotten prior knowledge about the application process. And the little niche details, just tips and tricks. Mainly, I just share my mistakes and I give them encouragement. I think people just need a little bit of encouragement and a little bit of push. So I do prioritize public school students in that aspect.
Now we are going to one of his meetings around his own Mongolian NGO. This meeting will be at the Brooklyn coffee shop. He will talk about how Mongolian can collaborate to highlight other organizations to potential employees.
Now that we've been to the Zorig Foundation, let's head over to the Brooklyn Cafe to meet with the Mongolian project members.
In the past, they have done 3-day hackathon event, collaborated with Zel.mn for a sustainability-themed open mic event, and spoke high school kids in internet. They have also implemented a social media campaign. Baljinnyam was really surprised at the amount of support that organizations gave them when they initially started.
So Mongolian really started here in this cafe. It was just a group of my friends, and we wanted to do something that was useful to society. And what we kind of formulated and brainstormed was that, climate change, it's a very broad and kind of talked about topic. But what we realized and found out when we did research with high school students and students in Mongolian public schools is that they actually don't know too much about climate change. In our survey of 120 students, I think 87% of them said they didn't learn about climate change at school. And so we saw that there was a real need for education. So we launched the Mongolian project, and it eventually turned into an NGO. And so really it has 3 main goals. Firstly, it's to educate people. We do education events and sessions to mainly high school students about climate change and how climate change is affecting Mongolia. And we also do a social media campaign. Secondly, it's to empower communities. So we have, in 2022, we raised over 100 million Tovuudorj for event planning and program coordination from organizations such as Center for Climate Change Research and Cooperation Center, Capitron Bank, Green Energy, LLC, and we've come to these organizations, and what we basically tell them is that we want to do an innovative, fun event that attracts young people, but we also want to educate them.
Today we had the chance to meet a young man who never stops learning. We have learned from our guest how important it is to be hardworking and patient.